Have you ever wondered what you would do if your doctor looked you straight in the eye and said, "There's nothing left. It's time for dialysis, not next year, not someday, but now." Because right now, millions of Americans are quietly losing kidney function without realizing that by the time symptoms appear, up to 90% of kidney function may already be gone. And once dialysis begins, life as you know it is never the same again. I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and what keeps me up at night isn't just kidney failure itself, but how often people are told they have no options left, when in reality the most powerful intervention may still be sitting on their plate every single day. And here's the part that changes everything. An 81-year-old man with stage 5 kidney disease already scheduled for dialysis managed to stop his decline and avoid that chair entirely, not with experimental drugs, not with false promises, but with a science-backed approach most patients are never told about. And once you understand why this worked, you'll realize this story isn't about him. It may be about you or someone you love and what you do starting today. This is the moment everything nearly ended. At 81 years old, this man wasn't dealing with early kidney issues or a borderline lab result. He was already at stage 5 chronic kidney disease, the point where doctors usually stop talking about prevention and start talking about survival. Dialysis wasn't a suggestion anymore. It was the plan. Training was done. Equipment was prepared. His life was about to be reorganized around a machine. And then something terrifying happened. The dialysis didn't work. Not emotionally, physiologically. His body simply could not tolerate it. The fluid went in, but his system failed to respond. No urine output, no clearance, no backup option. At that moment, medicine had nothing else to offer him. No stronger drug, no alternative protocol, just silence. This is the part most people don't realize. When kidney function drops below a critical threshold, mortality risk rises sharply, and studies show that patients who cannot tolerate dialysis face dramatically worse outcomes within months, not years. That's why this moment matters. Because this wasn't a slow decline anymore, it was a cliff edge. And standing there with no approved path forward, this man was forced to ask a question most patients are never encouraged to ask. What if the problem isn't that my kidneys are too weak, but that they're being asked to do too much? And that question changes everything. Because once dialysis failed, the focus quietly shifted away from machines and medications towards something far more basic, far more controversial, and far more powerful than anyone expected. But understanding the danger of this moment alone isn't enough. Because what he chose to do next goes directly against what millions of people are being told online right now. Once dialysis failed, there was no comfort left in following the usual advice. This man didn't have the luxury of guessing or experimenting. He had to understand why his kidneys were collapsing in the first place. So instead of listening to online trends or extreme diet claims, he did something most patients never do. He went straight to the medical literature and spoke with physicians who were willing to look beyond dogma. What he discovered was deeply uncomfortable. Everything being promoted online, high protein, keto plans, carnivore diets, eat more meat to stay strong, made sense for muscle but not for failing kidneys. In fact, large observational studies have repeatedly shown that high animal protein intake increases urea production, metabolic acid load, and filtration pressure, accelerating kidney decline and advanced CKD. For someone already at stage 5, that extra burden can be the final push toward permanent dialysis. So he made a decision that felt almost backwards. He didn't try to make his kidneys stronger. He tried to make their job lighter. He eliminated animal protein completely and shifted to a low-protein, carefully controlled plant-based approach, not a fad diet, but a strategy designed to reduce nitrogen waste acid production and nephron stress. Research published in nephrology journals shows that even modest reductions in protein intake can significantly lower blood urea nitrogen and slow disease progression in late-stage CKD. This wasn't about deprivation, it was about survival. Every meal became a way to remove pressure instead of adding it to give damaged kidneys room to breathe, instead of forcing them to fight harder. And once that pressure started to lift, something remarkable happened, not overnight, not magically, but measurably. But understanding this decision alone still isn't enough, because the real proof came next when the numbers stopped getting worse and started telling a completely different story. Once the pressure was finally reduced, the body began to tell the truth, not through feelings or hope, but through numbers. This is where the story stops being a theory and becomes evidence. Over the following months, his lab results did something doctors rarely expect to see at this stage. Blood urea nitrogen dropped from a dangerous 85 to 54 milligrams per deciliter, a shift large enough to move him out of the toxic danger zone. His creatinine, instead of climbing as predicted, stabilized. No spikes, no free fall. And then came the result no one was prepared for. He didn't progress further into end-stage failure, he moved backward. From stage 5, he returned to stage 4, and not briefly. He stayed there. Month after month, year after year, 3 full years of stability without dialysis, without emergency interventions, and without experimental drugs. In nephrology, that kind of outcome is not luck, it's signal. Clinical data consistently show that even small reductions in uremic toxins can dramatically change survival curves in late-stage CKD, especially when progression is slowed before dialysis becomes unavoidable. This wasn't a cure. It was something far more realistic control. The decline didn't accelerate, it didn't spiral, it paused. And that pause gave him time, quality of life, and options most patients are told they no longer have. But here's the part almost no one explains clearly: these numbers didn't improve because the kidneys became stronger. They improved because the kidneys were finally allowed to do less. But even that understanding still isn't enough, because there's a deeper reason this approach worked, and it has everything to do with what failing kidneys truly need to survive. Once the numbers stabilized, the real lesson finally became clear, and it's one most people never hear explained properly. Failing kidneys don't collapse because they suddenly become weak. They fail because they're forced to work under constant overload. Every high-protein meal, especially from animal sources, floods the bloodstream with urea, ammonia, and excess acid. For healthy kidneys, that's manageable. For damaged nephrons, it's relentless pressure that never lets up. This is why telling late-stage kidney patients to eat more protein to stay strong can be so dangerous. Research shows that animal protein generates a significantly higher renal acid load and nitrogen waste than plant protein, increasing filtration pressure and accelerating nephron loss. In contrast, plant-based proteins produce fewer uremic toxins, and the fiber that comes with them does something even more important: it shifts part of the detox burden away from the kidneys and toward the gut. Multiple studies now confirm that higher dietary fiber lowers circulating urea and inflammatory markers by enhancing toxin elimination through the intestines, not the bloodstream. And that's exactly what happened here. His kidneys didn't regenerate. They weren't healed. They were finally given relief: less waste to filter, less acid to neutralize, less pressure every single hour of the day. When kidneys are allowed to do less, they don't have to fail faster. They can stabilize, they can hold the line. And sometimes holding the line is the difference between living freely and living tethered to a machine. But even understanding this mechanism still isn't enough, because the real question becomes painfully practical. What does eating this way actually look like in real life, day after day? Once the pressure was off his kidneys, the question stopped being why this worked and became how to live this way every single day without burning out. And the surprising truth is that his diet wasn't extreme, complicated, or miserable. It was structured, intentional, and designed around one principle: keep protein low, keep waste lower, and keep nutrition steady. His meals centered on legumes like lentils, chickpeas, and beans paired with kidney-friendly grains and vegetables that were naturally low in protein, but rich in fiber and antioxidants. There were no steaks, no chicken, no fish. Not because food was forbidden, but because animal protein was simply too expensive for failing kidneys to process. Protein intake wasn't eliminated, it was controlled. Research shows that in advanced CKD, even a modest reduction in daily protein intake can significantly lower uremic toxin levels and slow progression toward dialysis. And to address another hidden stressor, metabolic acidosis, his doctors added sodium bicarbonate under medical supervision to keep blood bicarbonate levels stable. Clinical studies have shown that correcting acidosis alone can delay kidney decline and reduce the need for dialysis in late-stage patients. What made this approach powerful wasn't any single food or supplement. It was consistency. Day after day, his kidneys faced less waste, less acid, and less pressure. That's how stability became possible. And that's the part most people miss. Kidney protection isn't about dramatic fixes. It's about removing silent damage from every meal. But even knowing what to eat still isn't enough, because there's one final truth that determines whether people act on this information or wait until it's too late. Before you go, I want you to take a breath with me for just a moment. If you're watching this because you're worried about your kidney numbers, scared of dialysis, or confused by all the conflicting advice online, please know this: you are not alone and you are not powerless. Kidney disease doesn't change overnight, but neither does healing. Small, consistent choices made today can still protect what your kidneys have left tomorrow. I strongly encourage you to save this video so you can come back to it, especially on days when fear or doubt creeps in. And if you care about protecting your kidneys, supporting healthy creatinine levels, and learning science-based strategies that doctors don't always have time to explain, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We share the latest medical insights, practical nutrition guidance, and real-world strategies to help you care for your kidneys, clearly, honestly, and without hype. Most importantly, remember this: stage numbers are not destiny. Your kidneys are resilient, and when you give them the right support, they can often do more than you were led to believe. Start where you are. Make one better choice today, and keep learning, because knowledge is one of the most powerful tools you have to protect your health. We're here with you every step of the way.